In this video, we're going to look at subtracting integers. And now, as we're learning about subtracting integers, the most important thing to remember is that any subtraction can be rewritten in addition. And so the example here is a minus b is actually a plus the negative of b. Okay, so let's take a look at a hard example here. Suppose we have, let's just do something relatively simple. 3 minus 2. Well, if you have three things and you take two of them away, you get 1. Okay, well let's rewrite that as addition, because when we do that, we can all of a sudden start walking our number line as I did in adding integers. And so according to this rule, we can rewrite the subtraction as 3 plus negative 2. I put the negative 2 in parentheses just to show you that it is a unique number, that the minus sign goes with the 2. Not necessarily it's plus minus. It's plus a negative 2. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to kind of review on this and just what I had told you before. You start at the first number, so you start here. And so if you had never seen the other video, this will give you an idea of what I'm talking about. You face this direction. You walk this way. So the second sign tells you to walk this way. And finally, you walk that number of steps. And so, if I go ahead and I draw my little guy here, he's going to start at 3. So I'm going to start here at 3. Here's 0. And I'm going to say, okay, here's my little man here. He's going to face towards the positive. And so his big nose is going to stick out in front of him. And he's facing the positive. He's going to walk backwards 2 spots. And so he's going to start at 3 and walk backwards 1, 2 spots. So he's going to end up at 1, which is where we predicted him to end up anyway. Luckily, he didn't have to walk very far. That's why he's still happy. All right, this technique can be used no matter what you're doing. If you just take the time to make sure that you have all of the signs there, then you can walk the number line to do these. Eventually, you'll just get used to working with integers, and you'll do this automatically. You won't have to use a number line, but it takes practice. Okay, now, the hardest of the addition and subtraction, the most difficult for most people to get is subtracting a negative. And so I'm going to do one of those examples next. Okay, so suppose we consider the problem 2 minus a negative 3. We can do this as well by walking the number line. And so we're going to start here. We're going to face this way. We're going to walk that way. And we're going to walk that far. Okay, so that many steps. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We put a 0 down here in the center. Remember that this way is always more negative. So off to the left is more negative, off to the right is more positive. And so we're going to start at 2. Let's do this guy in dark blue here. We'll start at 2. And so he's starting at 2. And now he's facing the negative direction. So now he's turned around and facing negative, and he's got kind of an eagle nose. But he's happy about it. Okay, so now he's going to walk in the negative direction. So he's going to walk backwards. So he's actually headed this way. So now he walks 3 steps in that direction. So he goes 1, 2, 3, and he's over at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really, when we did the subtraction, we were actually adding the 2 numbers. And that's tough for some people to get. I mean, it's kind of a trick to wrap your brain around that. But if we rewrite this, just like we did up in the first problem, in the first problem when we had 2 minus 3, we sent that and made it look like 2 plus negative 3. It was 3 minus 2. I'm sorry, I reversed that. But still, same idea. When you have a subtraction, you can rewrite it as the addition of the opposite. Okay, so let's go ahead and play that game on this one. So we'll take 2 minus negative 3. That means it's 2 plus negative of negative 3. So if you read this, 2 plus the opposite of negative 3. Well, the opposite of negative 3 is just 3, and so it's just 2 plus 3, and that's 5. So when you subtract a negative, you're really adding. It's a little tough to get at first. Practice it. Kind of get this idea of walking the number line. Don't be afraid to put one down on your floor and, just on a piece of paper and walk it with your fingers. Put several pieces of paper on the floor and walk it with your feet. It really works. And yes, I do use this on occasion. And so these here, all they do is kind of just reiterate what I just said. That if you're subtracting a negative, it's the same as adding a positive. As far as a real life, when are you going to see this? Your net worth is a really good way to kind of visualize this too. If you're younger and you really don't have things to speak of, this may not mean as much to you. But if you're older and you have certain things like toys, that sort of thing, kind of bear with me on this and talk to your parents, talk to your teachers, that sort of thing, and try to get a handle on what this is, because this will make a difference in your life. Your net worth is the worth of all the things you own minus all the debts that you owe. Okay, so for instance, I have a house. My house is worth about, we'll say 70,000. I have other things too, but let's just look at the house as far as a simpler example. So my house is worth 70,000. However, I owe 55,000. Okay, so my net worth right now, is all the things that the worth of all the things that I own minus the debts that I owe. And so right now my net worth on the house is only $15,000. Well, that's really not very much, but you get the idea. Now, my family and I own more things than that, and so our net worth is actually greater than that. However, suppose I wanted to pay off the house. What would my net worth be? Okay, well, if I paid off the house, my net worth right now is 15,000. If I pay something off, I subtract from it. But the thing that I'm paying off is a debt. The debt is itself a negative number. So if I pay off, let's get yellow in here. If I pay off a debt, then you'll find out that This is really 15,000 plus, because of the subtracting a negative, means that you're just going to add them. Plus 55,000 is equal to 70,000. And that's what my net worth would be if I paid off my house. And so you can see how you can build your net worth by simply paying off debts. And it all is actually quite simple. It's simple like this. But finances are typically seen as, oh, nobody can do them. Oh, they take a CPA. Oh, they take this. Okay, the tax code is awful. The math behind what happens, very, very simple. You just got to know how to look at it. And that's subtracting integers.